Hello, and thank you for listening to me. Earlier tonight, I was watching YouTube and I came across a stream with Dr. Ed Dutton and Richard Spencer, and they talked about homosexuality. Now, they didn't talk about it that much. I mean, it was the Mick Spencer group, and they were kind of covering the news cycle and that kind of thing. But what bothered me was generally, hey Anton in the chat, generally Spencer has a different viewpoint on most things, but his what they were saying about gays is kind of your par for the course, typical kind of discourse about the thing, that you'd hear from any politician, liberal, conservative, or whatnot. I think people my age and younger probably have a different view of it, and especially if you're white. Basically, I mean, the whole culture has been gay. For if you're white, you should be gay. That's what is the best thing. I mean, it's what's in university. You have the gay group if you're white, and you don't really have any other sort of student service being offered to students. Like, you see the way the system divides all the students into racial categories. So you get like Middle Eastern student group and the African student group, and then if you want a student group and you're white, you're in the gay student group. Um, I really don't think there is such a thing. I mean, is like gay identity or something. I don't think people are born that way. I don't think it's like a essential thing for anyone to be. Although it could be like a drug addiction type of thing. Like, the people do it, and once they do it over and over again, they're addicted and they can't stop, and it it's something they can't come back from. But even that, I'm not sure of, because I have heard of the whole idea of like ex gay and that kind of thing. So I really don't think it probably is as bad as like addiction, like an opioid or heroin addiction, which is an irreversible type of thing, which I'm saying as someone who's never, tried these things and seen, never seen anyone who was like that come back from it, the drug addiction. And but I haven't personally known like the ex gay, but I'm sure there's some YouTube channels out there or something that will be about that. So I don't really see how you can say this is like a thing that needs to be protected or reinforced by even pressing their agenda, because obviously it's part of the agenda of you know like making people into uh you know automatons and separating people from a traditional life. um because I mean, it's part of having, not having a family. Gay people can't have families. Of course, they'll say like, "Oh, well, no, there can be a gay adoption or something. They can have families," but I would say that would probably be a minority, a small minority, would do that in that group. And I don't think it should be a group, is what I'm saying. And the takes that Spencer and Dutton had on it are the same. You hear everyone say they're talking about like maybe it's innate, it can't be controlled, but at the same time too they're talking about it's preference, and I really think it's a disease and it's widespread because of the media, and there's no religion. If uh, if anyone thought it was wrong, then they wouldn't do it. It's not like uh, I guess what I'm trying to say too is Dutton was talking about like people like men that don't have families, that never get married, that kind of thing, in his analysis of the whole thing. So like he was talking about like, you know, childless men or something, like, or men that don't, you know, uh have sex or something, and then he was equating that to men that are having sex with men, like homosexuals. And I noticed, you know, some people were also noticing that in the little chat box too during the stream. It was kind of it wasn't, I don't know if it was live, but it had one of those live chats on there, and they were, you know, people are saying, hey, you know, Dutton's mixing together the idea of celibacy and homosexuality like it's the same thing, because some of the statistics he was using and applying to gays, he wasn't talking about statistics that were about gays. He was talking about statistics of like I don't know, like bachelors or something. And you know, I feel like, well, I I don't have a family. I don't have a girlfriend. Does that make me gay then? I don't think I ever will be. I never wanted to be, but there's kind of like a pressure then that maybe I'm supposed to like then be somehow understanding of other men like me, that they're also, they don't have a family, but they're gay, you know? It's different. Um I don't know them. For all I know, that they could have, they were, there were women available to them or something at some time, and it's their preference to be gay, you know? I'm saying that I just haven't had a girlfriend for a long time, and it's not the same thing, but like listening to Dutton speaking the numbers he's talking about, I think he was trying to say that if you don't have a girlfriend, then you're gay. Of course, you know, everyone watching this video will probably just say, oh, this guy, there's something wrong with him. Then maybe he's not gay. Maybe he's impotent. I don't know. Honestly, maybe I am impotent. I don't know why. I just, I haven't been an attractive partner to the opposite sex yet. And I'm getting a little bit older. Maybe it will happen someday. Maybe it won't. I don't really care anymore too, because as you get older, the urge, I wouldn't even call it urge, just like the amount of time that I spend thinking about like, oh, this is so horrible, no women like me, like it goes away kind of. Like I don't think about it anymore. Hey Zero Infinity, how are you? Um I like watching, you know, Spencer and Dutton. I watch most of Dutton's videos. They're very interesting, but at the same time, I never like take it as like a, you know, religion. It's, you know, it's basically, you know, he's talking about science, and he's talking about like evolutionary biology, and like we criticize it the way the liberals use it, but really you can't use it like in a conservative way either. because what they're doing, the evolutionary biologists are doing, is they're taking like everything in life and then factoring it down to a handful of factors. And of course, like you can be empirical about it and you can say, well, these two factors really do have a big impact on each other, that kind of thing. But at the same time, the conclusions they're making and that kind of thing, there's too many factors involved for it to be ever anything more than pseudoscience. And so you can't take it seriously when like the left are talking about race is a social construct, but you can't really go into these categories of science and make like a traditionalist kind of paradigm that counters the left's version of it, because the whole science in the first place is based on presuppositions of kind of like their academic authorities, and their empiricism is the empiricism that traditional culture went off of, which it is not. Where's white Afghanistan? White Afghanistan. I think Afghanistan does have different ethnic groups in it. There might be white, and there might be more Asiatic, and there might be more like Hindu Indian types too. Or they could all be mixed together kind of a little bit. I don't know. I've never been to Afghanistan. I haven't really studied much about Afghanistan. But, I haven't made a video for a while. I've been off of here. For reasons too that I should talk about as pertaining to what I was saying before. But I was thinking about some things about like, whiteness and things like questions like would Afghanis be white or whatnot. But I mean, I've just been trying to stay away from streaming. Like I was talking about never having a girlfriend earlier, and I was, always talking to this girl, watching my live streams. Like this is the closest thing I ever known to a girlfriend. But now I'm not talking to her, and it's like I just have to step away from that, because I feel it's like there's like there's something so good about women. I know there has to be, but what I feel on the front of things usually is like there's a deep negative energy, and it's in the world right now, and women are propagating it. I don't want to say like, oh, I believe in like witches and witchcraft and that kind of thing, but sometimes it feels that way. I guess it's like that song, women seem wicked when you're unwanted, when you're strange. That Jim Morrison song, I like that. But yeah, talking about race in Afghanistan, and I'm like kind of like extreme in my ideas maybe about women, or talking about gay stuff, talking about religion and whatnot. And I think race, I'm not like hardcore. I generally would accept anything that's not like completely Asian or black as somewhere in the realm of white. But I am pretty big on religion, so being antichrist is like the worst thing. And there are groups of whites that are probably the biggest antichrist that there are, and not even as much like Asian and blacks are. And you probably know who I'm talking about. And I really think actually these people would shut down like the internet and YouTube and anything that even blows a little wind or not blows a little wind, anything that exposes them to the least, except for, honestly, I think YouTube is controlled by Hindus and Indians. And it is kind of weird because there is like this weird Mandela effect going on YouTube on the far right. And it's completely bizarre too, you know, because Hitler used like a swastika, which is an Indian symbol. And you see like a lot of these people are somehow connected to India and stuff, that their channels are getting like the most views and that kind of thing. Like in the UK, there's Right Reaction. He's a Hindu guy. There's Brutus. He's Hindu in a way. He lived in India for a while, though he's Englishman. And then there's Jen, which I don't know what's going on with her, but apparently she's in the Hindu camp too. And yeah, I mean, the Google runs YouTube, and it's run by the Hindu people. So it's not as controlled as some people like would claim it to be. But definitely, you know, I think this video could get deleted, you know, and I think the Hindu people are antichrist as well. And I'm not necessarily I'm not going to throw them in like that, say they're anti-white, when obviously these people are saying how much they're pro-white. But at the same time, I think the most, you know, the best thing for European people is like believing in God. I don't think, you know, anyone should be rushing to like a war or a battle that they can't win, but we can all kind of win in the spiritual side of things by just having a belief in like God and the tradition of our ancestors, which was just belief in God. And it's not complicated. And you don't have to, I'm not like a good religious person. Like I'm not strict. I'm not in a sect or a cult or anything. And my knowledge doesn't really go very far, but I just try to like live with a little bit of good faith in my life, right? Like nothing's going to happen to me that shouldn't happen to me, right? If something bad happens, I'm not going to blame anyone. I'm going to say that like God did it, and so I deserve it. And like I don't need to get into a theological discussion about who Jesus is. I think I owe everything I have to the kind of tradition and you know, the way society was built up around a church and that kind of thing. And really, like, I'm not here to debate about, you know, technical things like saying, what's this mean? What's the definition of that word and that kind of thing? Like, who's idolatry? What's idolatry? Like, to me, idolatry would just be like the same as atheism. I'm not really too concerned about like identifying different religious practices and then saying like, oh, this is idolatry and that. I'm not like a bigot like that. Of course, though, you know, I do feel very set in my ways, and I'm not liberal. I'm a little bit liberal. I've been called liberal, but like, I don't feel like it's possible that I can like go up and like choose my religion. I mean, it's kind of something that was just given to me, right? And I have to stay with it because the world wants me to stay with it, right? If I could really like examine, and if I had this liberal mind, like I could be like that guy Duvid, who's part Jewish and part Hindu, and be like, I'm exploring like the Hindu philosophy to life. And hey, I mean, he's big on here too in the microsphere that, you know, I watch. And There's another Hindu for you. Like I said, now my theory is unfolding that the Hindus control YouTube. I wonder if they're going to listen in to what I have to say about like God and Christ here. Probably not. If they do, they'll just delete the video, whatnot. And really, though, it's not like I'm saying, when I'm saying, oh, the Hindus are running YouTube, I mean like from a technical standpoint, right? Like they're the ones who are behind the software. They're the ones who have to make, edits and, develop the way the program layout is. And obviously, the tribe is running, the world government and stuff. And it's good for them to keep their hands off of some things to give like the illusion that they're not in control. Hey, Korean man left some questions. Do I like Bronze Age pervert? Well, yeah, I like Bronze Age pervert, of course. I mean, I listened to all his podcasts he did. I never read his book. I think he's done like 12 podcasts, about an hour each. But they're not just like him like talking like this. They're pretty good. Like he splices them together. He comes up with some ideas, and then I like, his take. I think I've said before, I believe Bronze Age pervert is a Scottish guy. He's Scotsman. I can tell by his accent, even though he kind of like, he makes a fake accent like this, but somehow like underneath he's got like this Scottish accent, and then he goes on top of it with this fake Russian accent, and you can hear it if you really like listen to it. I'm sure real Scottish people like can hear that and know right away that he's Scottish. And I don't know mold bug. No, I'm not worried about corona. If I saw a Chinese person in real life at the store, would you run away? No, I would go to China right now. I would go to Wuhan or whatever. I really okay. So talking about the coronavirus too, I can tie it into homosexuality, because they're saying that they're using like HIV medication to treat the coronavirus. And really my belief on everything is that like antibiotics, vaccines, viruses, all these things aren't really what we're told they are. And it's kind of part of the whole population control, population replacement thing. And there's so many aspects to it that the general public is ignorant of. And I don't think there are such a thing as viruses. And there's no really proof of it. And like you see like pictures of it and stuff on articles, and they say this is the virus, and those pictures aren't really pictures of viruses. There's no pictures of viruses. They're like something like a black hole kind of in science. They're theoretical science. And so I'm not afraid of any sort of coronavirus. And you could drop me in Wuhan tomorrow, and I would try to I would just want, people there to be hopeful that things will be better. And I'm really, I am concerned about what quarantine and shutting down a city could do and how long that could last. And perhaps, it could be something like, even I've thought horrible things like, I said I didn't believe in viruses, but obviously there are diseases and there are sick people and something bad's happening. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying the idea about like how this illness spreads and that kind of thing, I don't believe. And it might be something I thought could be something so horrible that like the quarantine never ends. Like as soon as these people would leave, then more Asians would get sick in other Chinese cities and that kind of thing. And, I kind of I read things online and they're saying, oh, it's like an engineered bioweapon, and I don't buy that kind of thing. And they say, oh, it started at a market, and I totally believe that part. Yeah, probably the first people that were getting sick probably were at that market. But why they got sick, how they got sick, what causes it, I don't think it's possible to ever really know that kind of thing. Um, so I'm not, no, I'm not worried about it from the standpoint of myself becoming sick, but I am worried about like maybe this could be like a, domino effect type thing where Wuhan's a major manufacturing point in China, and I'm starting to read that in like 2 or 3 weeks, the supply chains for all sorts of industry, especially the auto industry, are going to be very affected to the point where there'll be a standstill in production. And this could, this could facilitate kind of like some sort of global economic crisis. And even if, people stop getting sick from it, if the quarantine goes on, it could already be at that point. It could already be at that point where it's going to start. It already is starting economic problems, obviously, for China, but could it be something like that could result in some sort of a thing like a 2008, the housing crisis they talked about in the US or something? Josh Randall is saying, I'm Jim Morrison in the chat. Will America elect Corona guy? Lol. Who's Corona guy? Oh, Corona guy, Andrew Yang. Yeah, that'd be funny. Call him Corona guy. Get him elected. That's another thing I want to talk about too. Having to do again with the gays, right? The Pete Buttplug man won the Iowa caucus, and I think it's funny because they did the voting, I guess, by like a app on the phone or something. So you had all the gay people on their, switching apps. You probably could vote for Buttplug on Grindr, would be my guess, and that's why he won. And of course, they had to cover up the results for as long as they could because Biden was the favored among the establishment, right? And he came in like fourth or something, and they wanted him to win. Man, I couldn't believe it. I thought Bernie was going to win. Bernie probably did win. They still made it sound like the other guy won. And then Warren was in there ahead of Biden even. And Biden came in fourth. It's a disaster. I'm sure that I don't know that. I don't know. I would vote for Yang if Yang was running. I mean, he still is maybe, but I don't think if he does run, he'll be, running independently. He probably won't get the Democrat nomination. Josh Randall says, I'm hopped up on something that I don't know what that is, so I'm definitely not hopped up on it, right? Is that what Jim Morrison took? I'm way older than Jim Morrison. Can you believe that? But of course, Jim Morrison lived probably a life that was 100 times more full than mine. I mean, that's one reason I can be a little bit older, I guess, and still be kicking around, and I haven't died yet because my life's been kind of plain. I'm a solid dude. Yeah, I try to be. But Korean man said coronavirus has ruined Andrew Yang's attempt to run for U.S. president. I mean, yeah, I don't think that America is ready for a Chinese president. And while they voted for Obama, and they probably would vote for a woman too, and I just don't think they would vote for a Chinese. And it's just because of race. And it's kind of funny because, like, oh, so then when it comes to Asians, like, the Americans will start thinking again straight. But oh, they'll go and they'll elect a black president or a woman or something. I don't know. It's bizarre, right? You can't explain why these cultural divides happen that kind of way. It's weird. Um, what else was I gonna talk about? Oh, Luke Ford. He's been reading my chats on his live streams. He's taken a lot of my suggestions, I feel like. Like I said today, he said something about, I don't know, like, am I supposed, he said, like, I call gay people gay because homosexual is not the term they want to be called. And I said in the chat, I said, call them poofters. And then he was talking about something. He's like, I remember the first time I met this poofter. I'm thinking, like, I just made that word up right then. Like, maybe it's more of like a poofer, I think. Poofter's too masculine even of a word. Or just poof, right? It's just a poof. And but there's some other things he read too, like he kicked that KMG dude off his show, and I was talking about that in the chat for a long time. I was saying kick KMG off for like the last few weeks. I it's not like I have anything against KMG. It's just like, man, I like listening to Luke Ford because the way he talks when he's just reading like an article or something, it's like easy to listen to. He's got a good pronunciation and that kind of thing. Like, I understand all the words he's saying when he's talking, and he's got like the English accent going on. And I just couldn't stand the other guy, KMG. He just sounds like me or whatever, any other Canadian, just like self-important kind of. We hate Renee in the chat said, you remind me of a lion. I like it. Sweet. Yeah. The lion. I think I'm a Norman at heart, right? I think maybe not quite a Viking, but a Norman. And didn't they have like lions on their insignia? There used to be lions, like the African lion, like you see it on like things like shields and stuff from the Middle Ages, and you think like, what, like black people, they see that and they'd be like, oh yeah, we was the kings, right? Like because they think then, oh, the European kings came from Africa. No, there were lions in Europe even up to like 1,000 years ago. They actually had like wild lions still running around in Spain and Italy and that kind of thing. And so like there's even like a phrase, like I learned Portuguese, and some guy was telling me, my teacher was telling me, like whatever, like phrases of wisdom. What do you call it in Portuguese? They call it dicas, which would just be a saying. And one that all the Portuguese people know is that every day kill a lion. Like, it's something they still learn about today, and it goes back to like hundreds of years ago. There were still lions running around Spain, and you'd go out and you'd hunt lions and kill them, and they killed them all. And that's why there's civilization in Europe, because they killed all these damn lions that were running around killing their animals and stuff. Josh Randall wants a wrench. Oh, I'll give you a wrench, but it might cause me to robot a little. I kind of got like a bad connection here, and I got to like I'm streaming from StreamYard, and you pull off StreamYard. So I have to like go in and watch my own video on my phone, and then I can wrench you from there. But it might cause me to slow down here. It might cause me. Here you go. I got it. Josh says, why can't I drop super shekels on the stream? Well, I think it's because I only have like 100 subscribers. And honestly, like if I got up to like whatever 10,000 subscribers or whatnot you need, I would probably not get monetized because I would probably get my channel deleted, you know? I would just be like, hey, there are 10,000 people listening to me one day. I'm just going to say like anything I ever wanted to say about anything, right? And just go off on everything that's not like white and male, right? And then just get my channel deleted. Not white and male and Christian. See, that's where I feel like I get in the most trouble. Like when I'm saying like, oh, Jews are white and any Jew can be a Christian. Like I totally get EMJ, you know, E. Michael Jones and his view. And it's just like, I'm not big into saying there's a racial divide. I think it's logos that's divided. You know, I think it's this different approach to things. And I'm not going to say like, oh, like necessarily that Jews are unethical or immoral or something. It's just there's a certain faith that creates community, right? And so there are two different faith communities, and that's, well, there's really three. I mean, there's Muslim too, and there's something spiritual that divides us, and it's not primarily racial division, although there is an ethnic difference that has arose because of the separation, but really it's not such a huge difference as say like a difference between African and an Asian. Mental shekels, yeah. I'm trying to do this stream to get back on the horse after losing my girlfriend. Like I said earlier, she was the closest thing I ever came to getting a real girlfriend. Earlier, I was watching this guy streaming, and I was asking him like, "Hey, man, how do you get women?" And he was telling me, and I understood what he was saying, and it made sense. Like, yeah, just check them out, and if they check you out, get their number, man. That's what he said, and I'm like thinking, like, yeah, you're right. And but the thing is, I do check out women, and I never felt like they were checking me out. Like, I can think of like when I went to another country before, and like women checked me out and like smiled at me and stuff, like. And I never had that happen where I'm from, in my home. Like, it's bizarre. But, you know, I think really it's not like my problem so much as like I need to get out, you know, go somewhere far away. And, you know, there's just some sort of negative energy here or something. Just bizarre. Although it probably has happened, yeah. Like I can think of like one time I saw a woman smile at me, and I didn't know what to do because it just never happens. It's happened to me like maybe like it happens to me like once every like 6 months or something, and I just kind of I'm not sure what to do, I guess. Josh gave up cigarettes 1 month ago. So insanely difficult, law. Oh man, so you just started following me when you gave up cigarettes. It's good. That's good. It encourages me that I can keep making YouTube videos in the future without having to smoke. Because I know, because I've quit before, and you want to quit doing other things too, right? Like, kind of bad habits come in packages and that kind of thing. And so you don't want to go somewhere. Maybe you went and you smoked before or something. I don't know. But I quit for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something, like a year ago. Or I did that, I think, 2 or 3 times. But I always kept starting again, and I haven't tried quitting for almost a year now since the last time. And I really like it, and I feel like I'm in okay shape still. I haven't been doing it that long though. Like I said before on a stream, I said one time I was doing it for only a couple years. It's been, I think, 2 years since I started. So someone was like, "What? You're smoking for 2 years and you didn't quit? Like, what are you thinking, man? Like, hey, come on. I really like it, and I definitely will quit too, because I probably will get the bad effects from it eventually. I mean, I wake up and I cough sometimes. I have like a sore throat, but uh, I haven't really felt an urge to quit lately. Maybe I should. That's the reason why I can't get a girlfriend, right? No, I didn't have a girlfriend for so many years though. 2 years of smoking. Like, I'm not gonna say, something really would have changed. That's another thing too. Maybe the reason I don't have a girlfriend is because my standards are too high. I want one that's like tolerable of me, right? And when I make mistakes, if smoking's a mistake, I should be free to make some sort of mistake like that. But I'm not saying I want to be able to like be a bad person. I'm not saying like, I would not be loyal to this girl or unfaithful to her or something. No, just like, I'm tired of having every single uh, gesture I make be judged in a negative way. I'm just trying to like live here. Cigarettes, are they that horrible? No, but they have been part of a media campaign. And yeah, Josh says I should keep smoking because it's cool. Well, I don't know if it's cool, because like I said, there's a gray area, right? There's gray area here, because I'm not saying that I feel like, I couldn't get a girlfriend because I smoked, but I definitely don't think it's something that like wins, it doesn't give me good attention. It's not like, if I smoke, then I'm going to get a girlfriend. And also, I wouldn't want to have a girlfriend that smoked too. Like, I would just think that would be horrible, especially because most women don't smoke now. And if they do, I think there's a connection between drug use and smoking cigarettes and smoking marijuana. I don't do that. I don't smoke marijuana or use drugs. And that is something that I think would be more the case with women that smoke cigarettes. I don't know. Maybe there's women like me. There's women like me, right? That they're just smoking cigarettes and they're not doing anything else. But that could be another problem though too. Like, I could be too much of a Puritan here, that I need to drink beer and then I'm gonna get a girlfriend. I've never been a beer drinker. I'd never go out to bars. I I should do that. I mean, I did it a few times in my life, and it was always fun, but it was only a few times. And it maybe if I did that more, something would happen for me, right? but I don't know. I'm kind of thinking about the positives and the negatives here. I'm not too unhappy, but I definitely don't like the taste of beer that much. I mean, I wouldn't even consider drinking like anything else too if I was going to ever go try to go out and hang out at a bar. I wouldn't even want to touch alcohol like the I don't think I ever drank really much alcohol other than a beer. I think I drank whiskey once. I think I did. I think I was like just like singing or something after I drank it. I was just like singing really loudly. It was like late at night and like there was no one around and I felt like just really like almost like dizzy and I I wouldn't want to do that again. I wouldn't want to do that again. I mean, it there's something about it that's different from because like I said, I tried drinking beer before too, and I remember how that was, and it was similar to like when I drank whiskey, but it wasn't exactly the same. It did not feel as like sickening in a way. Like there was something like really just really intense, like more powerful about the like I said, I don't smoke marijuana, right? But I did try it before and yeah, so like smoking a cigarette creates an effect, but like smoking marijuana creates a very large effect. And I would almost say the difference between like beer and whiskey is like the difference between a cigarette and marijuana. I mean, it's just way more powerful effect. Rain Cat, the usual partier. I mean, I guess maybe that's what people do. They're like they do it one time or something and then they think about it for a long time and then they get older and then they become big partiers, right? I don't know. Maybe. I just have a good memory though. Like I mean, I remember like lots of little things that I couldn't explain and like I learned to speak other languages before like and I don't know how like just from like I'm a little slow too though. It's weird. So like my memory's good and then I'm a little slow and it's like I learn things after they happen. Like I didn't know I was learning something and then like a day later I'll understand something. Like learning a language like I'll learn words like a day later after I heard them without hearing them again. And I'll just know what they mean when I hear it again. It's weird. I can't explain it. I guess I did explain it. That's kind of what it is. But also too with like just anything related to learning. It kind of I'm it's like my memory's so good. Like I I might not understand something the first time I see it, but then it's like it doesn't go away in my memory and then I understand it later. I I should be thankful to God for that, right? Obviously, it creates some issues when, there's a lot of evil in the world. I've seen things that I won't forget, right? But I'm pretty good at remembering everything. And even if there was more evil than good in the world, I still believe that there's a potential, there's a powerful idea that there's good to come because the world's kind of under the yoke of the divine. Well, I liked reading the chat. It kind of kept me going, but Josh says, why don't I appear on Luke Ford? I don't know what you mean by that. I never went on Luke Ford before as a guest or talked with Luke Ford, but I'm watching his show and leaving comments on almost every live stream he does. I think he's my favorite YouTuber. As Claire Ka said earlier, Luke Ford is the godfather of live streamers or something. I thought that was a good one. That was funny. Josh, how do you feel about KMG leaving the Luke Ford show? I feel like looking at your picture, you could be a Canadian as well, and you might be upset over KMG's departure on national grounds. Am I wrong? It was a solid question I posed. I think I answered my own question, but I don't think Josh is going to miss KMG too much. And who knows? It could be like Luke and KMG are just like a couple bickering, and he takes a short break, and then Luke has to have him back on. And really, I don't know if it is anything other than like Luke is streaming so much, right? He streams every day for a couple hours, and he doesn't. He talks about having low energy, and he's saying like, "Oh, I've had some sort of low energy syndrome for like 30 years or something," right? But I don't think he's being honest. I think his energy is like dropping like fast, like a rock in the ocean right now. And KMG was like keeping his streams going, you know, like every time the last like 2, 3, 4 months, I listened to Luke Ford's show. It was just KMG talking. So I didn't really listen to it that much. But of course, the last few days have been exciting because he's been doing the show all himself the whole time. It's very exciting, right? I'm glad I didn't unsubscribe to him, but I don't think he has the energy to do it. And I think he's saying he doesn't have the energy to do it. Maybe he can just cut down to do it like 3 times a week or something. Maybe 4 times a week. I think that would be good. Josh said KMG is worth missing. KMG is worth missing. That's a very poetic way of putting it. I mean, obviously, the best part about him was, even if I say like, oh, I like the way Luke Ford reads the news, he's got a nice voice, he's calming to listen to or something, right? Like I'm into the Luke Ford asthma. But KMG did give a sense that like his purpose in life was to be the co-host of Luke Ford. And he was devoted to it. And now I hope he can make positive changes in his life where this, like him not doing this anymore with Luke Ford, isn't going to like completely destroy him. But I don't know, because he didn't appear to really have anything else going for him. And you could tell that it was like him being on Luke's stream was the essence of his being almost. John Vance said he claims to be a sex addict. You're talking about Luke Ford. Hey, how are you, John Vance? I haven't seen you around for a while. course, I have not been streaming myself for a week or so, but I didn't see you on Luke Ford's stream or Claire Kaw's stream or any of those. You have to rewatch the beginning of my video. I made some reaction to the Mick Spencer group. One more thing to add about that Mick Spencer thing from earlier. Just my theory. I'm always throwing out theories about things, right? First I'll answer Josh Randall's question. He said, when is my next stream? He's going on a date. Hey, congratulations. I hope it works out for you, Josh. I mean, not in an ingenuine way. I hope you get a lot of loving and catch me when you catch me. Who knows when I'm streaming next? I'm not on a schedule here. It's not my whole life, right? But I'm probably going to try to keep streaming like once a week or twice a week. I don't want to get back into like going at it every single day because I run out of things to talk about a lot faster than. So what I was going to say about the Mick Spencer group, another theory I have, Keith Woods, his co-host. So it wasn't just Ed and Richard, it was Keith as well on the panel. And Keith is a big time troll. Like, I like the guy. I like listening to all his videos, everything he says. It's very, he knows a lot of words. And he can say things that might be simple in a way, but he'll use like a wide variety of words that just makes what he's saying more powerful. Not just in a way of like him talking like he's really a smart guy, right? And so I'm impressing people by the way I'm expressing myself. No, like he uses the exact, words. They don't mix up the meaning of what he's saying. He's a very, very good, very smart speaker. And but he's a troll too. Like he watches a lot of videos. He has sock accounts and he leaves comments. And one thing I noticed about him though, he's always sitting there and the way he kind of moves. And there was someone in the chat going to Richard Spencer and saying, "Oh, Spencer, you're in a wheelchair. You're in a wheelchair." And like he was trolling the chat. And I know it wasn't a live show either. And I saw him before on other streams that he got to do with Richard Spencer. He was in the chat talking to the people at the same time as the show was going. And then I kind of thought about, like, he looks like he's really, weak and skinny. And like the way he like moves, like he's sitting, like he's just so used to sitting, like he's never stood up, but he's so loose in the way he sits and stuff. And I'm thinking like maybe Keith Woods is in a wheelchair and he's trolling Spencer saying you're in a wheelchair because he wants people to know he's in a wheelchair too, but he doesn't really want them to know. And that's one thing, I think, a lot of people on YouTube might do. They might have like some sort of like physical disability and then they create a persona like they don't. And it's part of like how they see themselves, even though, of course, all of us watching, no one watching is going to be thinking like, well, differently about that person really, because we only know each other through like hearing each other's voices on speakers and maybe you see a little picture, but it's not necessarily a realistic thing. I mean, I don't think it would matter, but for people that might have something like they're in a wheelchair, it might be a way for them to kind of like see life through the eyes of a person with legs. I don't know. Josh says, pray for me. I'm on business in Portland, Oregon. Josh sounds like he's kind of a crackhead. Sorry, man. I'll pray for you. John Vance says, Bismillah. He's been doing IRL. He's learning the Islamic stuff. And that, I don't want to get my video taken down, but it might be from some other things I already said about religion. And, I have a lot of bad things to say about Christians, Jews, and Muslims alike. And I I'm a little triggered by John Vance's comment, right? Like I want to go off and say like, oh, what I really think about the Muslims, but really it would be great if there could be like an alliance between a Muslim and a Christian, and like because the Muslims, they might not be like Christians, they might not all be good, right? There might be some things we see like crime, right? And stuff. A lot of crime in the Muslim communities in the West, the immigrants and stuff, it's not pretty, but at the same time, like if you talk to them, they do say like, oh, Jesus, peace be upon him, right? And it's not, they're not like perfect Christians, right? They're not Christians, but they're not like anti-Christ necessarily. I don't believe. And I think there might be more common ground between Christians and Muslims than anyone's thought so far. Certainly, like, the Jewish religion is an antichrist religion. And the Muslim, maybe it's not completely antichrist. It could just be like, kind of like a sect. It's different, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong to say these things. Maybe Muslim wouldn't agree with me. Probably most Muslim and Christians wouldn't agree with what I'm saying. But another thing too, I have read the Quran, and it does say some things in the Quran. It says among the non-Muslim people, the Christian people are the closest to you. And really, a lot of the first Muslims were Christians. They were called Nestorians, right? Nestor. And I don't know, for some reason, like Bob Marley, I think he said Nestor. I think he had a kid. He named his kid Nestor. And I think that's cool, No, I'm not going to name my kid Nestor. But I don't know what it was, but it was like there were different versions of Christianity before. And basically there were a lot of Christians in like Arabia and Africa, and they were in Ethiopia, and they became Muslim, but really, like, I don't know if their culture really changed or anything. Like, I think that basically it was like what we see as Muslim culture today. It was Christian, It was kind of just like a change in name or something. Like, I don't think like it fitted them to be, calling themselves Islam later on. And I mean, really, I know this is the case. I mean, so there's not a huge difference. And two, a lot of like what European Christianity is kind of European people's traditions. And then they just started calling themselves Christian, right? So, I mean, I don't think there's as big of a divide as people think. And, even like with words and linguistics too, there's like, there's so many similarities that, some just our common names and stuff. Like we all have the same names, and they're just kind of like they're different. They're pronounced differently, but they came from like scriptures, holy scriptures and that kind of thing. And different people, the scriptures got spread around, and different people read them differently. They kind of came off the tongue in a different way, and they're kind of the same. language has kind of the same source across, the world, from all the way from Egypt into England. And did all Europeans speak English, says John Vance? Well, no. I mean, English was spoken by English, except for, yeah, I mean, in a way you could say they did, because really the word, it comes from Injil in Arabic for the gospel. They were the people, the angel, the evangelical, right? English. It's all coming from the same word, meaning the gospels. So English means gospels, people of the gospels. And so, yeah, I mean, all of Europe was kind of English in a way, right? Because they followed gospels. And I got a comment from some Brazilian that said, Jabiraquinha gameplays. Yeah, this is what my channel is. It's Jabiraquinha gameplays. We do that, Jabiraquinha baby. I don't think she's really I think she's really a Sapato, and I'm being trolled by this old fat Brazilian gay guy here. Just see my videos and kiss me later is the comment. Ugh. I'm happy though. I finally have one Brazilian follower after making a whole video, or translating and putting subtitles in a whole movie, right? I did that O Pegador das Promessas, and I translated it and put the subtitles up on the whole video. It's on my channel. You can watch it. It's like a film from like 1963 or something. And I guess, why would Brazilian people need to watch a Brazilian movie with English subtitles on it? I think it could be good for them to be learning English, actually, like, because they just might think, oh, it's so different, it's so hard or something. It might be easier for them to watch like a Brazilian type movie with English added into it, instead of watching an English movie with Portuguese added into it, if that makes sense what I'm saying. Josh is going to go. Thanks for this stream. Thank you, Josh, for being here. I'm going to go here too soon. I just got to get to the last comments, make sure I read them all. John said, what do you think about Claire's plan to incentivize Muslims to donate for rabbis to write about Noahide laws? I mean, I think Claire has good ideas and bad ideas. And Noahide is only a position that is taken by like really, like, it's a really extreme Jewish thing that's as obscure as anything, right? Like, I believe in God, like I believe in the 10 Commandments. I believe, in the Holy Scripture. You're only gonna find like Jewish extremists that are gonna say that they've created some sort of other thing based on their interpretations of God's word that is supposed to be followed. And just the thing about it is, though, there is something to it, because really, though I say it's an extreme and bizarre position that doesn't make much sense, there is a lot of Western evangelicals that have kind of taken up the yoke of Zionism, and the Noahide is part of it. And it's an awful, disgusting thing. And I don't think, I don't think that Muslims are going to be on board with that. I mean, basically, what Claire's trying to say is she found a way to promote Zionism to Muslims. And it's a completely bizarre idea. Now, there is something to it, though, in that Muslims live off welfare. And Palestine is like the world's, biggest welfare state. Like, as oppressed as the Palestinian people are in many ways, as far as like their international standing and their say in their own government and that kind of thing, which is nothing, they do have their whole lives like supported by, a welfare kind of nanny state in Israel. And it's amazing how ungrateful they might be, but at the same time, yeah, maybe some people would rather be poor and independent than sustained by an oppressor. Okay. But what I'm saying is it could be like the model for the New World Order is to turn, all the Muslims in the West into Palestinians, right? And so everything's going to be balkanized, and there's going to be like Gaza Strip cities everywhere, And I totally see this as being actually like in the plans from their perspective, but I completely reject it, and I don't think it could catch on a big way. I think, once those type of things get pushed, then, people like Donald Trump are going to stop getting elected. Hey, Shoshana. Hey, John said the Noahides are a moral base, the Abrahamic base. Yeah, sure. I mean, you can, but you don't have to say, oh, my base is here, and we share that base. I share this base with this other group. I can I can extend my faith all the way to the heavens, right? I don't need to settle for the crappy, lowly Noahide law. And Schofield Bible followers is Claire's audience. I mean, there's a lot of Zionism everywhere that we're even it's subconscious. We don't even realize it, and part of it is the whole dementing of the belief in God, and like even the scriptures and stuff and how they're interpreted. How, look at the Pope, right? The Pope is like an antichrist. I mean, promoting things that would never be promoted by any other leaders in the church before. And a lot of it, can go back to the Vatican too. And the idea that some of the beliefs that Jews and Christians have are the same belief. Now, certainly I'll say we all believe in God, but then they're talking about now like things, like, creating like the conditions for the Messiah to return, that kind of thing, like that we share these same beliefs and these apocalyptic visions and that kind of thing, which is just completely bizarre world. And we're in peak clown world, and it's not going to be, it'll be something that people in the future will analyze with great interest. And even maybe a video like this will be watched by some sort of political scholar, and 80 years from now, wondering like, why did Israel finally do the Samson option when they did, that kind of thing. John said Iran also has a bigger social safety net. It's a pillar of Islam to donate your income to the poor. A certain percentage is mandatory. Okay, yeah. And so in traditional Christianity, it's not like that, right? There's actually a tradition of what we would say poverty and pauperism, and that doesn't exist as much, right, in the Middle Eastern culture, maybe. Certainly, though, in Europe, in the Middle Ages and stuff, there were people that like didn't have anything, right? And they would just live on the street, and they still do. You know, it's different. You go to like Spain and you see it. You'll see extreme poverty, but these people are, in a way, it's part of the religion too. Like they're like they're like anti holy men. You know, that's even how, kind of like the whole idea of a priesthood, I think, began. Was you had these people that were totally, thrown out of society. They kind of deserved the death penalty, right? But they were allowed to live, but they couldn't have any property or anything. And they were given jobs then that were involved with the religion. Like they threw up like a piece of, like a gold staff, the golden bow, and they threw it up in a tree, and it would just be sitting in the tree, this piece of gold, right? And they would pay. Or what am I not? I'm not talking about pay. I mean, the reward for the person, this guy who guarded it, was, he guarded the thing so no one would come and pull it out of the tree, but he didn't, he wasn't killed, right? So in a way, he should just be thankful for his life. And it's interesting, that somehow developed into, I don't know. I kind of I kind of got a little bit mixed up in my rambling there. I was talking about, I think, three different things at one time. Excuse me. I'll just read a comment in my chat to give me a redirectioning. Shoshana says, "Will Trump be elected?" Since this video is titled, has Richard Spencer in the title, I like Spencer, his take on things. Like, I think he's usually pretty correct. And he was saying, a few weeks ago, with the whole tension in Iran and stuff, like he didn't think Trump would be reelected. But now, after the whole this Democrat primary thing in Iowa, it was just such a farce, such a joke, that even tonight on Spencer's show, he said, like, yeah, Trump will probably get reelected because the Democrats like look like a total circus. And I really think it's controlled. I mean, honestly, I think Trump probably will get reelected, and the Democrats are being doing this on purpose. They're being directed to be dysfunctional because really, right now, the biggest thing directing U.S. politics seems to be, to me, from my perspective, Zionism. And Trump is the best Zionist in the group. Shoshana would vote for Bernie if she was American. I don't know. I mean, I'm not anti-Bernie. I'm ambivalent towards Bernie. I would probably vote for Yang myself. I wouldn't mind seeing more, more people that are straightforward about being, consciously governmental, right? Like the far left Democrats. I mean, I feel like the government's authoritarian as it is, and that these communists at least might be straightforward, saying, yeah, we want a strong government, when our government already controls everything, The U.S. is partly a third world country, says John Vance, the Canadian, in the chat. It's American values, which I find cringy, of radical independence, having clean streets and bathroom for homeless people. So the play doesn't start should be a minimum standard. Well, hey, I don't know what you're talking about, John Vance. There's only no bathrooms for homeless people in a few areas, and it's pretty clean in America. I mean, only if you're in like probably like downtown, like New York City, or downtown Chicago or something. It's the only place where you wouldn't see a public restroom. Shoshana says you guys will get Trump. Yeah, probably, more than likely. I mean, I always thought Trump was going to be the president. Ever since I learned about his connections, I thought, oh well, this is just the next stage of things. John says, you Americans have to make money out of everything. Public services is a communist conspiracy. Well, the communists are conspirators too. I kind of regret some of the words that came out of my mouth like 2 or 3 minutes ago about the communists being transparent or something and their drive for authoritarianism. Definitely, yeah. Their nature is more conspiratorial than any, and even recently, like just I heard this guy talking about something. I've been watching English talk radio, Mike Graham, and he was saying there were people in his live chat and calling his show talking about like English people, we got to stand up for British people, and he said there's no such thing as indigenous British people, and I kind of thought like this is kind of like one of those things that the communists do. I mean, they have like these slogans, like something like "There's no indigenous Britons," like "There's no indigenous white Americans," or something like they actually believe this stuff, but they can't talk about it like publicly. It can't be discussed because it's a ridiculous idea, and as soon as it gets hit by the light of day, it evaporates. But at the same time, everyone is indoctrinated in it who is in the circle, like the inner circle, right? And it's passed around as an idea they know about, like they're supposed to stick to it. And it's an unspoken tradition. So yeah, everything in communism is a conspiracy. There shouldn't be conspiracy. It's a horrible thing, and our world's overcome by conspiracy at this point. I mean, just look at my channel and YouTube. I mean, half of YouTube is about conspiracy. All right. I can't believe it. I went an hour and 23 minutes. Thank you for listening to me. This is the end of the show. Goodbye, Shoshana. Goodbye, John Vance. And I will see you later, y'all. Ciao, ciao. Oh, wait. I forgot something. I have to, before I lose it, I have to go back and check out Jabir Aquina. How do you say that? Jabir Aquina's Game Praise channel. They left a chat in my live chat here, and they said, check out my channel. I better check it out. Oh. It's just a bunch of like funny videos. I was hoping it was going to be some like woman twerking or something, right? Yeah. Look at this. Check it out. That was funny. The guy fell off his bike. He said, "I'm going to rob you," and then he fell off his bike.